Today we are doing Steering Towards Normal. This book takes place in Minnesota, out in the Midwest, largely about raising cattle. You will learn about an industry you know nothing about. You will also learn about troubled homes and sibling rivalry. Diggy Lawson stood in the barn and promised himself again that he would not name this new calf. After 3 years competing steers at the Minnesota State Fair, he knew what to expect. Nothing could describe the long, final walk to the Packers truck, knowing that in only a few days, his steer would be served at Hartley's Steakhouse. Why can't you name it if it's going to get eaten?
Because you don't want to get connected to it.
Emotionally attached?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, emotionally attached.
There you go. He was an experienced cattleman now. No names, no tears. An 8th grader shouldn't cry. Diggy inspected his morning's work one more time. The steer he had chosen would settle into his new home fast and happily. He patted his hair to be sure he hadn't broken the shell of goop that kept his cowlicks flat. Pop came out, his orange hair bright as a glow stick, and Diggy was glad he'd used the goop because it made his own hair darker. Is that hair gel or rubber cement there? Geezer, no one uses rubber cement anymore. Diggy snickered at his own joke. At 35, Pop was probably the youngest Pop on the planet. But calling him old never got old. Pop snorted. I'm thinking you deserve a little something special in your lunch today. Diggy groaned. Oh. Pop was an expert prankster with a subspecialty in food doctoring. So he gets the calf, he settles it in, he ends up naming it Joker by accident. It happens. Goes in, has a tuna sandwich that's laced with very, very spicy hot sauce. Dad's interesting in his punishments. Diggy led Joker into the shivering night. A steer needed to get accustomed to all sorts of sounds so he wouldn't be easily spooked by the time he entered the show ring. The chill air was a double bonus because cold stimulated hair growth. This would be a good year, his year, to win Grand Champ. Diggy hummed and patted and had Joker calm again until a truck barreled down the gravel road and skidded to a stop at the end of their long driveway. The dust settled to reveal a man stumbling around the truck bed. He heaved a suitcase onto the ground, and it popped open like one of those 3D party decorations. He lunged for the passenger door, jerking it so hard it squealed, then reached into the cab with 2 hands and hauled a boy out, tossing him onto the jumbled mound of spilled clothing. The door hung open. Momentum slammed it shut when the man gunned the truck and sped away. Diggy really did not want to know what had been left on his doorstep. Diggy knew about doorsteps. When he was a month old, his mom had bundled him into a laundry basket and left him on Pops. This kid wasn't a baby, and he hadn't been bundled up and safely deposited anywhere. He had been tossed out of a pickup truck like trash. Wayne Graf and Diggy had math and science together. That was it. Pop strode up to them. "You all right, son?" he asked Wayne. "Don't call me that!" Wayne bit out. "Why don't you come in and tell us what brought you here?" Wayne looked up at Pop, his face intent. "Did you know my mom?" Diggy stilled. The words themselves meant one thing, but it sounded like the question meant something else. Wayne's mom had been Diggy's 3rd grade teacher. He and Pop had gone to her funeral only 3 weeks ago, the day after school started. But now Wayne was asking if Pop knew her. "He says you're my dad and I have to live here now."
The father probably knew because he's like, okay, I just married a woman, she has a son. Well, where did the son come from?
Are we certain he married the woman with a son?
No. Where did she could have said, or he could just be assuming.
She could be assuming, she could have told him, he could have found out recently, he could have known when she was pregnant with Wayne. Diggy's stomach clenched. The man who had dumped Wayne in the driveway was Wayne's dad. Diggy may have been dumped by his own mom, but he'd been a baby. He didn't have any history with her. The idea of Pop changing his mind about Diggy and booting him out after all these years, Diggy could have puked, except that he wouldn't in front of Wayne. Mr. Graf might have gone a little crazy tonight, but he'd be back tomorrow. Wayne was his son. Is Wayne Mr. Graf's son?
No.
No. That might change the way Mr. Graf feels.
It's my wife's kid now. She's dead, so I don't really care what happens to this kid. And even if he has a relationship with Wayne, he's not thinking straight because he's only thinking about his wife.
And what stage 2 of grief?
Anger.
Anger. And this feeling of anger at his wife for, having someone else's kid because she's not there to yell at and get mad at. And it also feels wrong to get mad at someone who you loved who's now dead. The only person left to get mad at is poor Wayne. Diggy said his mother dumped him when he was a month old on his dad's doorstep. Might this give Diggy some abandonment issues?
Yes.
Yeah.
Brace yourself if you read this book, because Diggy's going to act like a jerk for a while because he's got all this competition and jealousy going on. All this fear of being replaced. Within 20 minutes of Wayne coming inside, Wayne and Diggy get into a fist fight.
Oh my God.
And just as they're like squaring off for round 2, they're like, okay, are we gonna do this out here in the middle of the, yeah, we're gonna go, man. We're gonna do this. It's all a donkey. Just at that moment, headlights in the driveway. Then a truck zoomed straight for them. The truck stopped in a hard skid. The boys ducked behind the tree. When the dust cloud hit them, they held back coughs. You've got my boy! Mr. Graf was way too loud for the silent night. You can't keep my boy! Disgruntled
Hypocrite.
You think? Disgruntled moos refuted the declaration. Pop said something quietly, the way he'd spoken to Wayne earlier, as if to a spooked animal. And Mr. Graf covered his face. His next words were only barely loud enough to hear. I want my wife back. Your dad's here. Wayne nodded. I'm taking him home. You know why? Wayne nodded again, not looking at anyone. You've been like this for a while? It got a lot worse when she died, he finally admitted. For both of you, Pop said. Wayne's face crumpled suddenly and he bit his lip hard, like a physical pain might hold back the other kind. He's scared without her and not all that clear about what he's doing. That doesn't mean he doesn't love you. He's lost. Pop's tone darkened. Now you don't have to lie in the road while he finds his way. So he takes Mr. Graf home so that Mr. Graf can sleep it off, drives the truck back home, and the boys, instead of going back to their fist fight, call a peace treaty and watch stupid, scary B horror movies till they both fall asleep. Mr. Graf and Wayne are going to sit down and talk, and it's going to be mediated by Pop. I think I should go back, Wayne mumbled. It's not your job to take care of him, Pop said. You're just a kid whose mom has died. That Pop's words so closely echoed Diggy's thoughts only made it worse. He didn't want Wayne here, but the thought of him going home was almost as bad. Pop was gone a lot longer than he needed to be to drive to Mr. Graf's and back. Diggy couldn't help but wonder what was going on over there. Was Pop trying to talk Mr. Graf into letting Pop keep Wayne? Even if only for a while? Pop had a choice this time. And he had chosen Wayne. By the time they heard the truck in the driveway, Diggy was more than ready to get it all over and done with. Wayne, we'll be right across the hall, said Pop. Diggy can stay, please. My dad used to beat the crap out of me. Graf said it like it was funny now, like he'd learned that dads did what they had to do, and he was a better man for it. No harm done. Wayne didn't respond. Diggy ground his teeth to keep from yelling. At Wayne or Graf, he wasn't sure which. At Wayne for not saying anything. At Graf for not saying what he should. I'm sorry. Stop. End of sentence. I love you. I'll stop drinking and get myself together and do everything I can to let you know I love you and want you to come home. You got anything you want to say? Oh, Diggy would have jumped all over the opening. But Wayne remained silent. Listen, I'm trying here, okay? The hangdog hadn't hung around long. Graf's tone was tinged with annoyance. I don't know what you want me to say. Look, I'm trying to apologize here. Since when? You keep out of our business! Dick Graf bellowed, on his feet too. This is between me and Wayne, and Wayne stood, holding himself tall as he watched his dad. I'm not coming back until you stop drinking. It's what Mom would want. Until you get better. You think your mom would want you to bail out on your family? Graf shouted. For some guy who couldn't keep his hands to... That's enough, Harold, Pop said. Not loudly, but meaning it. Graf clenched his fist tightly, breathing like a mad bull. I'm supposed to roll over and give my son up because he asks me to? It's because you won't give him up that you need to let him stay. Only for a while. You can't pretty this up, Lawson, just because you wanna. You dumped me in their driveway! Wayne raged. I get to be mad! And I get to stay here as long as I want, and you get to deal with it! Because I say so! Wayne was staying. Wayne was really staying.